It is a strange kind of silence that reigns in the archive. No dust particles seem to dance. No ray of light refracts in the air. It is just empty. When I sit there, it feels as if time has decided to hold its breath in this room. The job is perfect for me. Or at least, it was when I accepted it. Editor for an archive without a name. No company history, no website, just a plain office in a building so gray it almost seems grayer than concrete. My task is simple. I sift through manuscripts, old texts, fragments of diaries, anonymous novels that were never published. I correct grammar, smooth out sentence structures, bring order to the chaos of broken sentences. It is solitary work. I like it. The first week passed completely normally. I read about harvests in remote villages, the loneliness of sailors, the chemical composition of metals. My coffee grew cold, the pages turned quietly. A dry crack, almost like a whisper, when the finger touched the edge of the paper. Then the texts began to change. It started with the details. A text about a man standing in a dark kitchen peeling an apple. I read the sentence. He held the knife firmly, his fingers trembling slightly from exhaustion. I had put it there a minute ago. I felt the cold of the metal handle in my hand. My finger was actually trembling. I laughed it off, a bizarre authorial detail, an author who perhaps spent too much time in his own kitchen. But the next day, it was no longer an apple. It was a text about the feeling of wool on the skin. A long, dragging paragraph about the way a sweater constricts the neck, how it makes breathing difficult. I suddenly felt a pressure in my throat. I reached for my neck. There was nothing there. But the description was so precise, so physical. I couldn't stop reading. The words pulled me into the text. I read how the person in the text unfastened the button at the neck of the sweater, and my fingers moved. I didn't move them consciously. They simply slid into the collar of my t-shirt, as if I were undoing an imaginary button. I closed the manuscript. My heart beat so hard against my ribs it hurt. I stood up. I wanted to get some water. I stood still. I couldn't move. It wasn't that I was paralyzed. It was more as if my body had forgotten how to move. I stood there, legs trembling, staring at the wall. The next week was a tunnel of paper and ink. I tried to quit the job. I wanted to go to the phone, but the text told me I couldn't. I read a sentence. He wanted to use the phone, but his legs were heavy as lead. My knees buckled. I sank into the chair. I read further. He felt the backrest against his spine, hard and cold. I felt it. I felt the cold plastic of the chair against my spine. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rage, to strike the desk, to leave the room. But the text described how he opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I felt my jaw muscles tense. My mouth stood open. My tongue was dry. No sound, only the air whistling softly through my teeth. It's a logical error, I thought. My mind, this small remnant of me that was still free, tried to find an explanation. It is a form of hypnotic suggestion. It is a known phenomenon. The texts are so perfectly written, so perfectly tailored to me, that my subconscious accepts them as reality. That is logical. Or so I thought, as I read how my hand gripped the pen. I did not want to move the hand. I wanted to leave it on the table. But the hand hovered over the paper. I felt the pressure of the fingers on the wood. I felt the nib of the pen at my tip. I did not want to hold it, but my fingers curled around the plastic. I began to write. I did not write what I thought. I wrote what was in the text. I corrected the grammar of a sentence about a window. I corrected the comma, and as I placed the comma, I felt the curtain in front of the window flutter in the wind. But there was no wind outside. The air in the room was dead still. The curtain moved only because the text said it moved. I saw it quiver. A gray, dirty fabric swaying in the rhythm of my heartbeats. I tried to turn my head away. The text described how he turned his head, but the neck was stiff. I felt the stiff neck. It pained me. A sharp pain that shot from the base of my skull into my shoulders. I could no longer look away. I stared at the window. The lines became shorter. The descriptions became more direct. There were no more metaphors. There were no adjectives for the mood. It was only the action. I open the mouth. I close the mouth. I blink. I read the line. I blink again. My body felt foreign. It was as if I were sitting in a suit of flesh and bone, steered by an invisible hand. I was the passenger in my own body. A spectator sitting in the front row of a theater, watching an actor mimic my expressions. I thought of the archive. I thought of the man who had written these texts. Who was he? Was he an author? Or was he an editor sitting here before me? Or was he the text itself? I wanted to imagine. I wanted to know who was writing me. I read the line. He wondered who was writing him. I felt the thought in my head. It was not my thought. It was a stranger's thought, implanted into my brain like a virus. Mm. A stranger's thought telling me that I wonder who is writing me. And then came the next line. It was short. It was so short that I almost missed it. But I saw it. It was black on white. It was the only line on the page. I looked at my hand. The pen was still in my hand. The ink was still wet. I read the line. It is a form of pain that cannot be described. It is a pain that does not reside in the body, but in the realization that the body no longer belongs to you. I felt my hand lift the pen. I did not want to lift it, but the hand lifted it. But the hand, it hovered over the paper. It searched for a new line. I felt the impulse in my arm, a small, fine impulse, like an electrical shock shooting from my wrist to my fingertips. I wanted to resist. I wanted to grab the hand, but I could not grab it. It was too fast. It was too fluid. It was the hand of a person who knew exactly what they wanted to do. It was the hand of a writer. It began to S-war in Cursor, scharfer Schmers in meiner Brust, en kleiner Stitch, wie ein Nadelstich, ich spürte wie mein Körper erschrak, aber ich wollte nicht erschrecken. Ich wollte nur aufhören, aber der Text hört nicht auf. Die Zeilen fließen über die Seite. Sie füllen das Papier, sie füllen den Raum, sie füllen das Archiv. Ich bin noch higher, ich sitze noch higher, ich lese noch, ich fühle den Druck im Hals. Ich fühle die Kälte des Handgelenks. Ich lese.